Oh, yeah, thanks for sitting down today. I appreciate you taking the time.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm really excited to talk to you. Most of my stuff online is about runners, but I work with athletes, across every sport, including yours, flag football. And one of the things that I think is, really interesting about flag football, where it's coming now, especially on the women's side, for somebody, at your age and stage, there wasn't much flag football when you were growing up, right? And so can you kind of let us know, like, what got you into sport and, like, what sports did you do? And then how did you transition to where you're at now? Like, one of the best in Canada here for women's flag football.
Well, that's a very good point. Indeed, there was no flag. As a little girl, there was no way of dreaming to ever play flag football at the highest level someday. It just wasn't popular. So, how I started into sports was mainly, I would say, my parents got me into soccer and figure skating. I used to figure skate at lunch at school, used to go there, play soccer on the weekend, and just kind of juggle into everything until at some point I got to high school. I dropped figure skating and I was like, soccer's cool, but look at this flyer, what's that? Flag football, sport with a pointy ball. So my friends and I were like, yeah, it looks cool, we should sign up. And I signed up for that. And ever since I signed up, I dropped everything else because I kind of fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the game, to be completely honest. It just amazes me how every year I've been playing for over 13 years. Every year I learn something new. There's never a point where you don't know much. So it is still growing, even if you've been in the field as a coach, as a ref, as a player. It's constantly evolving, and we're just trying to stay on track. So
Yeah,
that's a little
and
bit the story of my sports journey.
that's
And
awesome.
I skied a lot. My bad. I forgot to say on
Yeah,
weekends I used to ski a lot. So it wasn't that good. So, it wasn't that hard to drop either, but it was
that's
fun.
it. That's all right. And for those of you who don't know, like flag football will be in the 2028 Olympics in LA. You and your team are hoping to qualify. What does that process look like for those who might be just learning about flag football or following along with flag? What does that actually take for you and your team to qualify for LA?
So to qualify for LA, I'm like, I don't want to say anything that's like not right.
Yeah.
I know that in 2026 there's a world championship in Germany, and that championship is going to be a determining factor to decide which teams can go to the Olympics, because it's going to be a maximum of 6 teams in the Olympics, and so you want to make sure that you're part of those 6 teams. It's not a predetermined path, even if right now, let's say in 2025, we've won bronze at the World Games, silver at Continentals, and right now we could say that we're dominating in the sport. It's not a guarantee that we're going to be in the Olympics, so we have to keep working, and you never know what can happen at a tournament, so you just got to give it your all every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, can you paint us the picture of like how your pathway's gone from high school? Did you do Cégep in Quebec and then university? Like, how did that work? So, what was the pathway of Clara from going that young girl finding flag football to being on the senior national team now?
Yeah, so I played in high school for 3 years. I started in, we call it secondaire 3, so secondary 3.
Yeah.
I was about 13, 14, so played quarterback at the high school level. I got recruited to play in CEGEP at André Grasset, which was at the time a Division 2 school, which is still Division 2. There was something with the divisions and all that. But
Yeah.
yeah, as a quarterback, so I played in Grasset. I played first year, second year. Normally, you're supposed to graduate in 2 years. I had a concussion, so I had to uh, get rid of a lot of classes and all that. So finally, I ended up doing my CJEP in 2 years and a half, and that made it that I could actually play the third season as a quarterback. In the meantime, as soon as I graduated CJEP, people need to know that in those years in 2018, when you graduated, that was the end. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, my flag football career is done. It's over with. I could play like for fun, with friends left and right, and there was the club scene was starting to evolve, so signed up for that. got noticed in 2019 in Saskatchewan. Got noticed and was invited after that to do selections with Team Canada, kind of like a top 24 process in 2020 in Arlington. And all while that was going on, like I signed up to Polytechnique. I was in engineering. So I started my school, you know, just going about my life because flag football, it was like, okay, it's fun, but what's next? You know, there was nothing ahead of me until I saw a flyer for NAIA flag football scholarships and all that. And I was like, whoa, what's that? Meanwhile, in 2020, I got the chance to compete in Texas to represent Team Canada. Top 24 players from that tournament in Saskatoon were selected to go represent Canada to have a chance to make the 2021 team that was going to compete in Israel. Israel got canceled because of COVID. Canada decided not to send their players. Well, Israel was actually happening, but Canada decided not to send their players for safety reasons, which made it that we weren't able to qualify for Birmingham. Anyways, that's just a big
Yeah.
parenthesis to say that when I was in Texas, I played against Liz Sowers, which was a member of the U.S. national team, and she was coaching the Ottawa Braves. So when that came out, I was like, whoa, this new league, you know, let me just send her a DM. I was like, hey, you know, I played against you in Texas. Like, is this team for real? She was like, yeah, it's for real. Like, send me some clips of you. So I sent her some clips, and she was like, wow, you know, you're pretty good. Like, we want to offer you a scholarship. I was like, cool, you know, let's go. In the midst of COVID, I was supposed to go in the fall. Finally, I transferred in the spring, January 1st, and season was in the spring. So transferred, played there for three seasons, well, 3 semesters, sorry. Transferred there, played for 2 seasons, so 3 semesters, and then I transferred back here to Canada because I applied in my dream program, physical therapy, and I got in. So that's why I'm here now, University of Montreal. I've been playing with them for 3 years. This is my fourth year, actually. So I've been playing with them for 4 years. And that's about it. In the meantime, there was national team development.
Yep.
I It's just going left and right after that. Playing in Ottawa, Kansas has really opened up some doors for me in terms of wanting to pursue flag football at the highest possible level.
Yeah, absolutely. And throughout all that, you also made a position change, right? Like you went from quarterback to wide receiver. And so I look at that and go, hey, that's actually pretty handy because as a wide receiver, you know exactly what's coming out of the pocket, what's going on, the pressures, how to run the routes, how your QBs might want you running the routes, right?
Yeah.
And so what does that look like? What made you make that shift?
Well, to be completely transparent with you, I was recruited as a quarterback to go to Ottawa University. Um, and there was another quarterback as well, Madison Carrera, who has one hell of an arm. It wasn't even comparable. Like, I think her arm size is as big as my calf, to be completely honest. So at that point, I was like, I didn't come to Kansas to not play. I'm
Right.
going to be a receiver. I have no
Yeah.
choice. So that was kind of the shift for me. It was like, hey, I want to see some playing time. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to be on that field because at that level in the US, there could be up to two, maybe three people at the same position as you because it's a 7v7 roster. It's like a different format than
Yep.
international format. It's 7 screen. So it's a lot faster. It's a lot more like reactive and you burst out a lot
Yep.
of like it's just a different style of play than international
Yep.
football. So if I wanted to play, I didn't go halfway across the country and change countries to not play. So I was like,
Yeah.
I I'm gonna do what it takes, and then I dove in head first and kind of never turned back.
Yeah, you're obviously very determined to reach the highest level of sport, which is one of the main ingredients. But what was that like from a mindset shift to get there, be recruited, show up and go, oh, I'm never gonna play if I stay in my position, the position I know, right? And then it's like, okay, but if I switch over here, I'll get playing time, right? Because I
Yeah.
have to imagine that part of your identity as a football player was I'm a quarterback, and that's a thing, right? Like
Mhm.
quarterback is a thing. That's what a lot of kids grow up wanting to be, right? And you had to make that
Yeah.
switch. So can you talk about that time and how you kind of went through that process?
Yeah, it was actually pretty hard to be completely honest. I'm happy I I overcame that, but I feel like any young girl, anybody, a young athlete being told, "Hey, like you're not gonna like it's not gonna work out for you in this position that you've always seen yourself do." I kind of hit a little bit of a brick wall, and it was like I have two choices: go left, go right, or stay in front of the brick wall. And I was like, I'm gonna have to adapt and overcome. So what's my next step? Definitely took a moment to kind of swallow that pill of
Yeah,
like this is this is not for me, like, or is it just the team I'm in, or
yeah,
whatever, it's fine. I'm here. I play football like 6 times a week, so I'm if I'm gonna get better at something, I'm gonna get better at that. And something that is important to point out is that before I went to Ottawa, like I said, we were talking about Texas.
yeah,
I learned 2 weeks before going to Texas that they were like, "Hey, just so we're doing two teams, Team A, Team B, whatever.
yeah.
Uh, you're the second quarterback on Team B,
Hmm.
and if you're not gonna play, you're not gonna be playing quarterback. You know what I mean?"
Yeah,
So I
unless
was
there's an
like, "Well,
injury or something catastrophic, right? Yeah,
yeah, but it's a tryout. If I'm
yeah.
there to try out as a quarterback and you're not gonna be playing me quarterback." 2 weeks before leaving, I was like, "What in the world? I'm about to go try out for a national spot. I've never played this position. I genuinely have no idea how to change directions." And like, we're leaving in 2 weeks, and this is basically like the only shot I'm gonna get,
Yeah.
you know? It was a big moment for me.
So
Big
how did you do
realization.
that though? Because like I work with athletes all the time that they're cut, their playing time goes down, decisions to change positions, whether it's hockey, football, basketball, etc. Right? And for a lot of them, that's I mean you're probably glazing over because it's a conversation, but I want to pick in on that because
Yeah.
that's not easy. You're like 2 weeks out, first national team tryout, all these things. You're like, I'm not going to get to play. That could have been like you said, I could just quit and go on with my life, or I got to
Hmm.
pivot and do this. So you're very analytical. I can tell you've got the engineering and the PT background, right? But what was the emotional thought process like there? Because that must have been a rough week or two, I imagine.
Well, at that point, I was staying at my house, so uh, like, to decide what I was gonna do at that point, it was very much like, well, okay, I'm gonna go back home. I'm gonna look up how to run routes like a receiver on YouTube, and then I'm gonna be like, who's the best receiver I know?
Yeah,
So I called up a girl from the national team. Her name is Audrey.
yeah,
She's like veteran. She's won a lot of medals with I would say, the most winningest team, Fleur de Lis of Canada. And I was like, hey, like, can we meet up? Like, I gotta know, like, can you coach me? Like, can you show me how to run routes? Like, I'm leaving in 10 days. Is there any way, you could give me some tips or something? Like, she's like, yeah, sure. And I'll always remember, like, it was not that good, to be completely honest, but she told me something, and she said, hey, your routes are really good. They may be better even than X person who had already done, a bunch of good things, who's played on the national team, who's actually a person I actually admire,
yeah,
um, Milou. So she's somebody who has kind of a similar skill set, and I like still competing against her to a certain extent today. So for me, it was like, wow, like, you think I may have something better than this person who's an exceptional, phenomenal player. So that little thing is something that has powered me through to the sense where I even today, I've been holding on to that little thing that, hey, you may have something better than somebody else, because I was like, I, I don't know who I am as a receiver, in that sense that I know I'm different. And we're going to probably get into this. Like, yes, I'm a receiver. I can also throw. So I'm a good throwback option,
yeah,
which in football, you can do like throwback stuff. I'm a good runner. I'm a good backup center. I wouldn't say I'm the best center in the world, you know what I mean? But I feel
yeah,
like I can get the job done. And being that my height is not the same as, let's say, the other girls on the national team right now, like, in a certain sense, I know that I'm unique, and I need to work on what makes me the best flag football player. You know what I mean? If I try to be like I want to be the best receiver, well, I can't grow. You know what I mean? I can't like I can only work on what is going to make me the best player for my team. So, I I think that was a pivotal point to in flag football, and I feel like in any other sport, the athletes who go the furthest, in my opinion, maybe you can correct me
Yeah.
on that. The athletes that go the furthest, in my opinion, are the athletes who can adapt and overcome the better, because the situation is never going to be exactly like you practice. And if you make up your mind that things are going to go this way, 99% of the time, they are not. So,
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. There's a saying I have when I'm working with athletes. I'm trying to think of the French pronunciation. If I can get it, I won't. But in English, it's new level, new devil, right? So
ooh,
when you're playing at the high school level, right? It it's like it's flag football. It's like run the ball, catch the ball, take the flags. Like at the base, I know there's more to it, to be clear, but
no, no,
like at
no,
the
I know.
base level, that's football. It's a territorial sport, right? And so it's the rules broadly, say for sevens and changing for international and such. The rules are broadly the same. The structure is broadly the same, right? But what changes is the competition level and who you have to play against. And I think hopefully a lot of young people listening to this realizes there's a lot of people in the beginning stages of sport, and as you go up the pathway towards international team, there gets less people, but the quality of people goes way up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what you saw with the quarterback. It's like, hey, I'm a pretty good quarterback at this level, right? And then you go up to the next level, it's like, well, now I got this new devil to compare and compete against, which is like, I got women that are like you said, arms that are the size of my calf. What am I going to do about that, right? And so
Yeah.
I think it's a great framework for thinking about, okay, yes, flag football is flag football, but there's a bunch of new devils to contend with here, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's really hard sometimes to do that because when you have an identity, right, like we talked about for you as a QB, right, it's like that's who I am. And it could have been very easy for you to go, if I'm not going to make it as who I know I am, screw it, why not? I'll go to some other sport, or I'll go to my academic and professional life, right? But that spark that woman gave you was probably enough for you to go, okay, that's enough that I can go contend with these other devils. I can
Mm-hmm.
go and push through this. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely fair to say, and even not even to say I can do it, because at that point I did not have the confidence to be like I am an elite level international receiver. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. But it was I may one day be there if I put in the work and
Hmm.
I do what I need to do. And that spark of hope of like potential is really what is driving even today to like keep going, whether it be like uh, not being chosen or being sidelined. It's like I know that I have the potential to do something great, and I believe that if I work hard, I can be great. So that's what drives me today to keep going, because if not, I mean, whether it be in school, like just recently, parenthesis, I had an exam, and there's a two-part exam, and the
Yep.
first part went terribly. Like I'm not even joking. I think I had tears going down my eyes, because I was like, I am not gonna make it. Every fiber in my body was like, run away, run away right now. In between the two classes, just run away. Like you have a chance to leave. And I was like, you know what, Clara, like just give it what you got.
Yep.
Whatever that is today, just give it what you got. I went in there, I tried to do my best, like my teammate partner that we're doing the things on
Yeah. Yeah.
was like it's okay, like just one thing at a time. And that kind of like grounded me, and it was enough for me to be like, like whatever it is, like you're gonna get through it, and whatever it is, it's gonna be okay. And at some point it was not like I had never imagined that I would have tears going down and be like, right now I have to go prove that I'm a competent physical therapist. And
Yep.
I I don't want to say I didn't ace the exam, but I did pretty good, decent. Till I was like, if I had ran away, I would have never been able to do that. So it's just something that I'm like, well, whatever it is in life, even if everything in your body says leave, 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 like run away, like you can't do this, just be like, you know what, just give it what you got, and we'll
Yeah.
see.
It's interesting. One of the things I say in my clinical practice with athletes, I guess two things I would say that you're experiencing there, but then also, on the field, and as we're talking about the change in position, is the first one being you are not your thoughts, right? So the voice in your head, it's not you, right? You're just the one hearing it, right? So you're sitting there hearing those thoughts, just quit, just run away, right? But you chose, like, you didn't go through this process and do it, but this is fundamentally what happened at the psychological level, is you chose to not listen to that voice and said you're a narrator, but you're not the main character, right?
Yep.
And so the more you do that, and this is a skill you've probably gained through life and sport, right? But the more you do that, that awareness replaces the reactivity where others would run out, or others, when making that switch, would go, that's it, I'm done, right? And then the
Hmm.
second piece I find that's interesting, hopefully, this is interesting to you, I suppose, is
Absolutely.
I think that when we're in anxious type situations, the antidote is actually action, right? So, in between those tests, right, the two, and was it the practical and the written, like your practice test for the
Well,
exams?
it was the preparation and the practice exam. So you
Got
had
it.
to
Yeah,
prepare, write down everything you do, and then you
yeah,
walk in and you have to do one of those things and present what you're
yeah.
doing. I was like, ah.
Exactly. And so when that anxiety grows, it's in the hesitation, right? So you had that quiet space in between when things were popping off, right? And so you can think about this in the sporting context, like in between huddles, timeouts, close games down at the end, right? It's we start to get anxious, right? Like for anybody Canadians listening to the Jays game 7 there, right? Going into the seventh, we're all sitting there going like, oh my God, are we going to do it, right? And so but what those players are doing, and I imagine what you do on the field and your teammates do, is you start looking at the actions you're about to do. And I don't want to confuse that with play call action, right? Like the actual action of what you're about to do, right? And so the moment that you start to move towards action, you move away from your fear, and that fear
Hmm.
loses its grip, right? So, with that, you don't want to pretend you're not anxious. That like faux,
Yeah.
fake stuff doesn't work, right? But it's recognizing that the anxiety is there and acting anyways, right? So I've got this, I think it's cool, it might be dumb analogy that I use, where I call it the annoying salesperson, right? So if you're sitting in a huddle, close game, at the end of it, right? And so we've all had this, right? You're sitting at home, you're having dinner, maybe at your parents' house or something, and some guy comes, knocks on the door, right? And he's like,
Hmm.
hey, I'm here to sell you internet or pave your drive, something stupid, right? And like, if your mom or your dad or you go answer the door, you go, no, thanks, nice play, yeah, not interested, in your head, you go,
Yeah,
never
yeah.
come back, like, leave me alone, right? And then when you get back to the table, right, parents or whoever go, hey, who's that? And you're like, oh, some annoying salesperson, right? And so you then just continue on having dinner, right? And so I think this is a great analogy when I break it down for sports, to be like, okay, those anxious thoughts, uncertainty thoughts, bad thoughts, whatever you want to categorize them that you're having, are like the annoying salesperson,
Hmm.
right? So you have to accept that they're there. You can't stop them. Like, I mean, there's ways that are highly illegal to stop them from coming to your door, but broadly, you can't stop them from coming to your
Yeah.
door, right? So you have to accept that that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But just like you went back and said to your family, that's what it was, and you started just continuing on with dinner and the conversation, you commit to not letting that influence the next set of actions that you do, right? And
Hmm.
so basically that's just a really like long-winded way of talking about acceptance and commitment therapy, which is one of the main things we do with athletes,
Yeah.
right? Because you accept that those thoughts are there. You did this before your exam, you're like, you're here, I hate that you're here, right? But I'm going to commit to go forward and do this, right?
Absolutely.
What do you think of that
And
idea? I test it
I
all the
think,
time, I want to hear
you
feedback.
know, I think it's very, very, very accurate to a point where it's scary because if to be honest, if you're going off that analogy, what happens if we dysregulate on the field? I would say it's because the buyer, the seller is at the
Yep.
door. Knock knock, you say, "Hey, I'm not interested." And you say, "Well, I just want to walk in and come in."
Yep.
If as soon as that happens,
It's over.
it's over and it dysregulates everything that's going on, and you're not able to get that person out. And it's at that point where I would say, like, emotionally and with experience, even now, like, it happens sometimes that the salesperson walks in and I'm like, I
Yep.
really want you to get out. And it's not getting out. And so I really want you to get out. And it's finding ways to make sure, yes, that the person doesn't come in, but also to figure out, hey, sometimes it's going to happen and they're going to
Yep.
barge in, but you got to figure out a way to get that person out, whether
Yep.
it's an internal cue, an external cue. something to ground you. And I feel like that is, you're able to do that more in the presence of people you trust.
Yep.
If you are in a selection environment where, let's say, everybody around you is a competition, it's really hard to find an anchor to help you get that salesperson out.
Hmm.
And when that salesperson is in and you're going through this process alone, you're battling through these difficulties. Everybody right now around you also has a salesperson in their house
Yep.
and they're struggling, but they're struggling with their own salesperson that they can't help you with your
Yep.
person.
Yeah.
So
And
that's,
it's funny. I usually finish, so I'll drive this metaphor home and beat a dead horse, I suppose. But when I'm talking to athletes who are going through it, right? Like literally in the moment, you think about a combine or something like that, right? I always say you wouldn't come back from the angry sales even if you like blocked them off, right? Like you're like, nope, screw you, not today, right? And then go down and complain for 20 minutes to your family about annoying salespeople and ruin your dinner,
uh-huh.
right? And so as an athlete,
Uh,
right? So even if you stop that moment, you don't let them in, right? You don't go and play like garbage for 20 minutes because you had a salesperson at your door. You don't like those thoughts, right? And so that's where I think it's kind of fun because if I'm talking to athletes before big selection or combines or international like stuff, it's like, okay, you stopped them, good, step A, right? But don't go
mhm.
ruin the next 20 minutes because you had some salesperson come like screw up your dinner. It's you go back to dinner and you tell your family how much you love them and you go have a great dinner, right?
Yeah.
And so the same thing for you guys on the international scene is you've got really the next 2.25 years, well, probably 1.5 really from like qualification to LA, right? Where if I was working with a player like you, it's like, okay, how are we not letting that affect us right now? Because there's going to
Mhm.
be ups and downs, right? This going through your seasons, right? And the last piece that I'll bring into this is that a lot of the time when we're dealing with that angry salesman, we are in this like weird spot where we perceive problems as bigger than they actually are, right? Our feelings lead rather than our actions, right? So
Mhm.
that's a lot of metaphors that I've wound in. But what do you think about that, like in your experience in some of the high pressure situations you've been? If you can think back and be like, oh man, maybe I wish I had that or thought that way, or maybe you already do think that way. This is just a more fun way to capture it.
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, I love metaphors. So
Perfect.
already
Good.
we're
Yeah.
we're like, I love them. I do them for
Yeah.
absolutely anything.
Good.
It's my way of communicating that I understand what
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
saying, you know?
Yeah.
But in terms of like action based, it is something that even personally, like when I'm in a disorganized state, I would say, whether it be like sports or school or anything, like just just do one little thing. I'm
Yeah.
not saying do the whole thing. I'm just saying do one little thing. You're nervous that, um, let's say, for example, you're not working enough on your speed, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, every time I'm warming up, I'm gonna include a little bit of plyometrics. So I'm like, if I don't have time to do speed session, at least I know that every single time I am training on the field, I am doing a little
Yep.
bit. And it kind of like builds evidence to where I'm like, hey, like even if I didn't do exactly everything I exactly said I was gonna do, here is like a list of all the things that I have been doing right, whether that be nutrition, whether it be sleep, whether it be, so many different things where I'm like, hey, I've been accountable in all of this. If it's 9 out of 10, it's fine, because there always is going to be that probability of chance.
Yep.
And that, since I've learned that, even if you do everything you can, like there's always going to be a certain part of chance in whether games, races, whatever. And that has also helped me let go of some things. For
Right.
example, we lost well, I wouldn't say we lost. We won a silver medal in Continentals because the game was stopped at halftime. So because of lightning delays and all
Yeah.
that, we were losing at that point in the game, 12-0. And the rules are that if you're losing 12-0 at half, it's enough to call the game, and it's frustrating and I'm still having a hard time, to get over that.
Yeah.
But I'm also leaning into there were some key plays that if we would have done better,
Yep.
the outcome would have been different. Or on the other sense, if chance hadn't been on their side, things would have been different. The first time we played Mexico in pool play, uh, the most some of the most unfortunate things I've ever seen in flag football happen. Tried to stretch the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and the ball like it slipped out of her hands. She tried to catch it, it tipped, and our rusher did an interception. It was one of the coolest plays I've ever seen in my whole life.
You're
But
just
that
on the
also,
wrong end of it.
yeah, well, we were on the right end of it because
Right.
we intercepted the ball. They were
Oh,
on the
okay,
wrong
gotcha.
end of
Yeah.
it. But it was still one of the coolest plays. And I was like, statistically, the chances of this happening are so unlikely. But that's just a part of the game of chance to a certain
Right.
extent. And talent. We got to give it to our rusher,
Yeah.
Leah. She did one heck of a pick. But still, like, there was a little bit of chance into that.
Oftentimes when I talk to athletes about confidence, right? So you're talking about, what it is we're supposed to do and how we, want to get better. We we know this, but we don't know this in sport, right? So as athletes, we go to practice, we watch film, we do routes, like everything, right? But I think sometimes it's important to understand like what that's actually doing rather than just showing up and doing the practice, right? So if you
Mm-hmm.
look at it broadly in terms of we all want to be confident when we're on the field, and that can mean different things, and there's different buckets for how we get confidence. But I would argue that one of the best ways to establish confidence is through consistency, which builds competency. And then when you know you're competent at something, that's when you can feel confident, right? So if you think back to like when you first started the wide receiver switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had, well, no consistency because you literally hadn't done it, right?
Yeah.
And then competency, you're running the routes going like, oh my God, I can't even catch a ball probably, right? And then
Yeah, yeah.
all of a sudden, as you stacked that consistency in practice, right, you saw your competency go up. And you were very fortunate to have that woman who, helped you out and showed you and gave you that spark. But as that competency went up, all of a sudden you could be confident to go, hey, wait, I could maybe do this at the national team level. Does
Mm-hmm.
that track with like how you think about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the thing is also that you need to have in context is that before this year, it wasn't individual trials. So it
Mm,
was if your team wins, you are the national team, basically.
mm,
So it needs to be taken into context because that also affects your confidence as a player, as to where you're gonna look. Some people are gonna look at the national team and they're gonna say, that girl's not that good.
mm,
Even if their team won, that girl's not that good. I'm better than her. I don't understand why she's there. And so also you internalize that where it's like, hey, we were the best team at that tournament. Does it mean that we are necessarily going to be the best team to represent the country in the next year? Not necessarily. And I think that's why they switched to individual trials for, let's say, this year and going forward, which I think is the best way to kind of have the best players regroup and perform at their best. But then comes like, yes, it's fun. Yes, I was taken. But also comes where, hey, if I was not chosen, which happened to most of the people who tried
yep.
out, it's like, am I worthy of this? Am I
Mm,
even able, Like, is it me as a person who's not able to make this team, or like, do I even have a chance, or is it possible? Like, it's, do you want to go through this every single year? And
mm,
that's a big question heading into, let's say, next year is, the people who made the team this year, it's not guaranteed they're going to be on the roster next year. But psychologically, you may think, oh, because you've made it, you're as secure. Like, you're a little bit more
yep.
secure than the people who are trying. And I would say the contrary. I would say if you have nothing to lose and you're trying and you're going and you're going and you're doing it for you versus you're going with the mindset, hey, I have a chance of losing my position,
Mm.
well, then you're playing with a lot more pressure.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, you're essentially describing like your sport broadly as a decentralized sport until it's national team, right? You go and you play on your teams, and then you have a selection camp, and then all of a sudden you have to come together and perform, right?
Yep.
And so, rugby does this as well a lot of the time too, right? And so it is hard in that respect, but I think you're taking the right approach from a mentality perspective because what you're saying with that is not also like, hey, I've got to work hard, but it's like I'm not content with where I am. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
the best I can be. And I don't think that's a bad thing. That kind of sounds, I'm not content with where I am. And like, there might be people listening. It's like, Clara, you're on the national team. You should be
Yeah.
content, right? But I think that's the difference sometimes between high performers and normal performers is it's not about just getting where they want to be. Like there's that relentless pursuit of excellence that we're all chasing at this level, right? But where good performers tend to come in is it's relative to what they believe their potential is, not
Hmm.
just that they're on a team, right? Because there's going to be women that'll be on this team that don't play a lot. And they're going to be like, I'm not happy not playing a lot. So next year when I come back, I'm going to work my butt off and I'm going to be one of those women that gets playing time, right?
Yep.
And I think, is that what you're highlighting here? Where it's like, it doesn't matter that you're on the team per se this year or next year or the next year or the next year. It's how good can you be relative to what your potential is?
Yep. Absolutely. I think you really sized it perfectly. It's um, every person is going to go through the process differently, and I would say for me, it's I'm going to be embarking into this next round of selections, and I have a vision of who I think Clara, the best version of Clara is that can
Mm,
best help her team, and that's who I'm going for. At the end of the day, I'm going to strive to be the best athlete I can, the best teammate I can, um, you know, all while enjoying it. And I think that's something that's essential because if my joy and my happiness is how do you say, I don't want to say in exchange, but like
yep.
how do you say like the word, if my happiness and joy depends on
Yep.
making the
Performance.
team
Yeah.
performance based, I don't think at the end of the day it's a healthy way to go about it. And it's you can think, oh, Michael Jordan's, Kobe Bryant, they're obsessed and all that. And I think to a certain degree you need to be obsessed, but you can't be obsessed with performance. You have to be obsessed with getting better.
Yep.
And that's where, if I feel like I'm getting better, I know I'm getting better. I'm more competency, and I
Yep.
feel like things are just gonna go my way. And if they don't, I'm gonna have to deal with that. And that's something that every athlete deals with. And I feel you just need to, you know, keep going, and you need to ask yourself, is this really what I want to be doing? Because it comes with highs and it comes with lows. And to be honest, my favorite tournament, you could say, oh, Clara, like, what are you most proud of? Yeah, I'm proud of winning a bronze medal at the World Games, silver medal, but my favorite medal comes from a little tournament that I did with my university team where I was QB. And because QB1, QB2 like couldn't come, and I was QB, and it was like nobody had any expectations for this tournament. It was like I was David and Goliath. I
Yeah.
mean, and I had the most fun because I was like, hey, I can prove like I still got this. And it was honestly my favorite medal. And people say, what do you mean? Like, you've been to the World Games, you've been on a national team, you've done all these things. No, but I've never felt as good as when I was playing for that tournament. And it was, mind you, it was -10, right? I was freezing. My toes were literally bleeding. I'm not even joking. But
Yeah.
for me, that's one of my favorite memories of flag.
That's amazing. I think what you're highlighting, I'll try to put it somewhat succinctly, even though both of us like to talk a lot, so it could go long. I don't know. But the high performers that I talk to across business, sport, doesn't matter the sport, like, working with top hockey players, talking with you in flag or top basketball, and obviously runners and endurance, my background. But they love the process, right? So when you talk about joy, right, it's like, I actually enjoy practicing. I enjoy being with my teammates, because you have to be willing to go through all of that to get the small taste of success that you might get, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm very fortunate to come up in running. And so if we look at like some of the statistics about running, this might blow your mind a little bit. But so marathoners, right? So they get 2 chances a year, roughly, to make the Olympics. Two, maybe three. Okay. And so if we're saying men, right? Our Olympic standard for men is 2:08:10, 2 hours, 8 minutes, and 10 seconds. Okay. They're gonna average, yeah, I know, it's quick. And so they're gonna average roughly, depending on the person, 120 miles a week, right? So about 200 kilometers a week. Okay. That's about 14 to 15 hours of training. A
Okay.
marathon build. So let's say they get 2 weeks a year where they get to compete to make the Olympics. Okay. So 50 weeks a year, they're going to spend 15 hours a week training to have two opportunities, 4 hours, right? So 15 times 50 is a lot, right? And then 2 weeks where they have a total of about 4 hours
Every 4 years.
every 4 years. Well,
That's
yeah, because our qualification window is about 18 months from the Olympic Games,
that's crazy.
right? And so I use this when I'm talking to other sport athletes. It's like, if you want to learn how to love how the process, I'll get you to talk to one of my elite marathoners, because they go out every day and run for 2 hours, oftentimes by themselves, right? To show up in 3 years from now to hopefully make a team that we have no clue if they're going to make, right? And so I share that story with team sport athletes all the time, because that's the level of joy you need to find in this process. That's like, and I want to be clear. So I coach a couple of elite marathoners. It's not easy. I get texts from them like, I don't know if I want to do it. I don't know if I can do this. Every athlete has that. I think it's important to see, right? But broadly, the joy is more than the negative emotion. Is that, what do you
Yeah,
think of that idea?
I completely agree. And I'm listening to you talk about like the hours and the amount of training and all that, and it seems a lot. It genuinely does because you're counting. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I asked myself, how many hours do I put? I don't know. I don't count.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we
it's
track a little differently in my world. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, it definitely makes sense, and I feel like joy is a big part of also why like I keep pursuing this because I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. Like I'd like to see where I can go, and especially being sidelined now for the past like five weeks, something like
Hmm.
that. I'm excited to get back on track and do
Yeah.
like my little jogging, and it's 1 minute on, 1 minute off. It's
Yeah.
nothing too big, but it makes me happy, so
Yeah.
I
And I
keep
wanted to
going.
ask, yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because you've been off for a bit here. It's been a rough year. Um,
Yep.
on the topic of mindset and identity, I think every athlete can resonate with this when you have injury or illness or something that takes you out for an extended period, right? You feel like a different person, right?
Hmm.
And so, with whatever you're comfortable with, what's that experience been like for you, and what's been going on?
Definitely, like I definitely feel like because context.
Yep,
Uh, right now, like there was China, right? And then
yep,
there was the beginning of the university season. So right now, Université de Montréal, Concordia, all that,
yep,
all the other teams, just right now is the university season
yep.
going on, and at the same time there was kind of Panama that was a little bit in the middle of that. So because I was gonna play Panama, I didn't play before, and Panama I was sick, couldn't play as much as I wanted, one or two plays. Got off, and as soon as I came back, I saw the doctor. Doctor was like, "Yeah, you should really stop. Like this is gonna go on for a while." So I did not really get a chance to play at all this semester for my university league. So for me, like I was told you need a rest. Practices are at 6:30 a.m. on Wednesdays and Fridays. So I had to not go anymore. I go to the Monday practice just to be in the loop because I had hope until last week that there was a chance I could maybe play. So I wanted to stay in the loop. I wanted to be there. So being on the sidelines and watching my team keep going without me is it's a bit heartbreaking to be
Mm,
honest because it's like I thought I was an essential piece of this team, you know what I mean? But in perspective, I get to see a well-oiled machine that's performing, and I get to see things from the outside, and I get to rest.
hmm.
And I think it's a big shift in like as an athlete, as soon as I'm resting and I see other athletes are already training, they're staying up top of their form, they're getting ready for next selections, you see it online, like it's like, oh my God, like am I falling behind? I'm struggling right now with like the feeling of am I falling behind? Like I'm not on the same pace. Like everybody else is doing this, doing that, and I'm not. I'm barely getting to jog right now.
Mm,
So it's definitely like it makes me sad. It makes me sad to see people going, but I also like it's a privilege. I try to see it that way. It's a privilege to
yep,
see my teammates, the people I love who get to do their thing and I watch them from the sideline and I definitely have way more stress watching them
yeah,
than playing.
yeah.
But it's just trying to see a different side of things and I'm saying it and but I'm sad, which
Yep.
is why it's like I've taken the decision that I'm gonna probably extend my school because this was
Yep.
supposed to be my last semester, my last season. So I'm probably gonna extend because my master's is finishes in the summer. Maybe I'm gonna push it, whatever. think I'm gonna do what I can to finish on a better note.
Yep.
Because parenthesis, the last contribution I had to my team was a penalty because I was on the sideline. There was too many people on the sideline. So -5 yards. I would rather finish on something else. So
Yeah.
I say it as a joke, but it's really something that I'm considering, doing again to just to be able to enjoy it better because it hasn't been enjoyable. I've only been asking myself, when am I going to be back?
Hmm.
Can I do it? This, that. Like, I'm just grateful that my coaches understand. They happen to be the same coaches as the national team, so I'm just grateful that they understand and that they're putting my health first and they're not forcing me to play, to a certain extent. It would be illegal, but still, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. What have you learned as a player being on the sidelines like this?
um, I've actually tried to spend more time on defense.
Mm.
Normally, I'm an offensive player, so I've kind of been helping defense out and
Hmm.
kind of getting to know more what are their struggles on their side of the ball, what's hard, what's easy. Observing team dynamics from an outside point of view
Mm.
has definitely been something where I can see things, little things that if the organization is open, players are open, things that I'm like, this could improve being the experience I've had. So I'd say that's kind of the role I've decided to take. I'll spot the ball at practice. Get in
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
doing little things, but just trying to be a little bit more present and trying to get my stuff in order. I feel like emotionally I'm already dealing with so much that the fact that I am there is like I try to make the best of it, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
when I see people having a hard time, I'm like, hey, just so you know, like I know you're going through a lot right now, but I just want to remind you of the privilege you have
Yeah.
to be playing. Like this season's over in 5 days. It's like actually the season's over tomorrow.
Right.
So make the best of it. I know right now it's that annoying salesman that's in your head and you keep
Yeah.
talking about everybody there at dinner, but like just be mindful that this is about to end.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the role that I've chosen to take on more and also be there for the younger girls if they need it, to talk about things, to vent about things. So I just kind of appreciate being there. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Where does your mind go with your thoughts? Like, do you find yourself overthinking sometimes about can you get back? Will you be ready? Like, do you go that way at all?
Yeah, I definitely do. Since I've gotten the news that it's like, oh, hey, you can gradually start again
Hmm.
in 4 weeks, I can start playing. I overthink to the sense where is this like what I want to be doing? You know what I mean? Like, do I want to go through this process again? Like, what level of commitment am I ready to give? Like,
Hmm.
what are my objectives? Like, where am I heading? The fact that I have more time to think and it's not like university, Team Canada,
Yeah.
tryouts. The fact that I do have more time to think, I definitely overthink, but I try to come back to
Good.
what's important for me right now. Like
Have-
right now, my goal is to be able to play in 4 weeks.
Right.
So that, like, having, like, it's so easy to spiral and to see everybody, like I said, like getting better, training, doing this, doing that. And I try to make sure that, like, yes, I peak, but I have to stay focused on what my path is. Or else it's too easy to like go crazy and be like, hey, like I see all these new girls coming up and they're super talented, they're super explosive, and I'm like, hey, like these girls are gonna pass me next year, They're gonna pass me, they're gonna be better. But then I'm like, Clara, remind yourself of what you've gone through and remind yourself of where you're going and hope for the best. Because at the end of the day, like even if I would do flag football 24/7 all the time, doing absolutely everything I can, if I'm not in the right mental state to perform, and I'm not going to be able to get better, I'm not going to get as strong. Like you have, it's kind of like too much. Isn't there like a saying that says too much is too much or something like that?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
there's a, so
I'll
it's, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'll give you a story I use for overthinking, and it's called. I didn't make it up, to be clear. I wish I was this smart, but so I'll paraphrase it. But it's called "The Man in Need of a Jack." Have you heard of it?
No?
Okay, so guy's driving down the road, tire like goes right, flat tire, right, and he goes in, pulls out all the stuff, and he doesn't have a jack, right, and so he's like, oh frick, I gotta get a jack, I can't get the tire off, right, so he looks up and there's a house up the road, and he goes, okay, I'll go there, right, and as he's walking to the house, he starts thinking, he's like, well, what if they don't have a jack? What if they do have a jack? Well, if they have a jack, will they even give it to me? And like, okay, if they give it to me, are they going to charge me? Like, okay, well, will they charge me? Is it like $50, $100, $1,000? Like, what's going to happen? And by the time he gets to the door, he knocks on the door. The guy opens the door. He goes, "Fuck it, I don't even need the jack anyways," and he walks back. Right. And so I think it's a really cool way of thinking about what happens when we overthink. It's like you literally get to the precipice, the point of what it is you want most, but your thoughts got in the way and kind of kicked you to the curb. And I share that a lot with younger athletes in particular because, even if you're going through a good time, but in particular if you're going through a bad time, right? It's easy to think about those thoughts as being true, right? Those what if thoughts, like, oh, what if I don't get to
Hmm.
play? What if they pass me? What if those are right? But I always try to remind people of this because like those thoughts can get in the way without anything in reality, right? That guy was probably going to give him the jack, be like, hey, do you want me to actually come help you? Like, do you need anything to
Yeah,
drink or eat, right? Probably would have had the best, outcome possible. But the thoughts got in the way, right? And so when I was hearing you think about what if they come up and what if they can pass me? I know you're battling back, but I
yeah,
thought I'd share that with you to fight back with it because it's a fun one, I think.
definitely. I feel like if you start thinking about things too much, and it's hard to make the difference of like, am I thinking rationally right now
Mm,
or am I overthinking? It's something that it's it's hard to tell, and I think it's easier to overthink if you don't have a plan. And
yep,
that's why
absolutely.
right now I'm very like plan oriented. I'm like, I gotta figure out what my plan is. Just before this call, I wrote to a kinesiologist. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, like, here's what's up. Like, do you want to follow me through this and help me through this? Because I don't think I can do it alone. If it's not you, it's
Mm-hmm.
fine, but I have to action. Or else I'm just gonna be thinking like, I hope this person can help me. I hope this person can help me. And when I'm at the point where I absolutely need help, I'm like, fuck, they can't help me.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to make sure we talk about this too because you've seen flag football on the women's side really kind of grow and boom the last 5 maybe 7 years, right? And so if we take a big picture and maybe reflection thus far in your time, like you've seen the growth and how it's evolved in Canada internationally, and what are you really looking forward to over the next couple of years as the sport continues to grow?
It's actually a good question. I, what do I look forward to in the sport? There's a few things that I'd like to happen, and there are some things that I think are gonna happen. If we
Okay.
start with the things that I would like to see happen is more kind of like financial opportunities for athletes, especially women athletes.
Yep.
Whether that be taking the sport seriously, whether that be sponsorships, whether that be just a better like structure around being a flag football national athlete or just a flag football athlete in general. The resources are pretty limited, and one of the things I hope to see happen is to see more women come forward and like coach, take on the youth, and make sure that this sport that is, growing so much, like we have women to look up to and women to be like, I want to be like her when I grow up. There wasn't that many opportunities when I was younger to be like, I want to be like her. She like, this looks cool, and have people lead by example or just female mentors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'll add this in just from some of my background in sport development here, for any like young girls who might be listening or parents. Like we literally have a sport for life document and documents in Canada for every Olympic track sport that talks about when young athletes should specialize, right? And the multi-sport development that we believe in Canada and a lot of the Scandinavian countries as well. And so when you look at flag football and what actually makes up the requisite skills, largely speed, agility, quickness, coordination, right? Power, and the plyometrics, which you mentioned earlier, like those are all developed multi-plane through a magnitude of different sports, right? So, for you guys in particular, you can take a look at the football model, right? And so there's plenty of data out of NFL and NCAA football about those players being multi-sport athletes through high school, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's a super important thing, especially here in Canada, where we're not the US, where we can just throw talent against the wall and sees what sticks, right? Like we have a much smaller talent pool. I think Quebec in particular does a really good job with first contact and sport development. They have a little bit more closer model to some of the Norwegian type countries.
Hmm.
But it is absolutely crucial if you're the parent or you are a young athlete listening to do a multitude of sports when you're young, especially for young women pre 15, 16. And then like you said, even if they don't end up in sport, like flag football as their sport, we know from the public health data like how important sport is for young girls and society, right? So I think, like, again, I'll stand on my soapbox here, but any parents or young girls who are listening, like, follow Clara's message and do multiple sports. And like your friends you referenced, you might never know where you're going to end up. You certainly didn't know you'd end up on the flag
No.
football national team, right? But you can look at all the amazing things sport has given you in your life, right? And that's because you did multiple sports and eventually found your pathway rather than chose your pathway quite early on,
Hmm. And I
right?
think it's important to kind of let life take its course to a certain extent. If flag football right now is fun, and let's say you're, as a parent, if your daughter or son, whatever the sport is, if they like the sport right now because their social group is in this sport, like whatever the level of talent is, like the important thing is that they keep moving. Most especially on the girls' side, most girls, like once they're done, like they don't reach the minimum recommended amount of physical activity per week, and that makes a difference whether it's on like the bone development, all
Yep.
that, especially with like the periods coming up, like coming in, like all these changes, hormonal changes, whether it be female, men, whatever, any
Yep.
kind. It's the most important thing is to stay moving, because if you don't have a way to move and it's not a part of your everyday life, whatever, it's going to be extremely harder to take on as an adult.
Yep.
So keep a healthy lifestyle within the household and stay moving, whatever moving is for you. I think it's the most important things, and doors will open. Just trust that doors will open.
Right. Well, Claire, it's been fantastic. I love hearing your story. I love everything you have to say. I hope as many young girls in the flag football community as possible listen to this so they can hear your story and what it actually takes to chase your dreams and be a Team Canada athlete. I wish you nothing but the best in your recovery and nothing but the best in your pursuit to LA 2028. And I hope we get to chat again.
Perfect. Thank you so much for everything, Brant. I'm wishing you a good one, and thank you for having such a good ear. Yeah, it's good advice, everybody. Let me tell you that. Pretty much, pretty good advice and good metaphors too.
Thanks,
So,
Clara.
welcome.